Okay, cool. So let me push live and then we would go live with this. Cool. Go live anyways. And Nicole, just let me know if that's worked. So, okay, cool. So I think we've got some attendees on here and we'll be patrolling the chat on the webinar. And hey, Milo, Sarah, Bruno, what is going on? And then we're also streaming live inside of FATC. So we'll monitor the questions on that end as well. We'll do a quick introduction of all the coaches in case you guys haven't had a chance to meet these wonderful humans that are behind a lot of the questions that you're asking in the group. Amy, do you want to start it off?
I do Facebook ads.
I'm Amy. What's up?
I'm Amy.
Hey.
I'm Jordan. I'm also an e-com guy up here in Vancouver. Also a coach for FATC.
Cool. Yeah, and Jordan worked with us for quite a while as well, so has a lot of experience with kind of coaching, webinar, lead magnet funnels, all of that kind of stuff.
What's up, guys? My name is Michał. I'm in Canada. I am an FATC coach, former academy coach, Rapid Fire Empire coach, first student of academy. What else can I say? I guess, yeah, I love lead gen. I love coaches, online courses, all that stuff. Yeah. And I love ActiveCampaign and Schema.
Hey guys, I'm Brandon. I'm a coach in the incubator. I teach prospecting there. I moderate in FATC, just answering questions when I can. I'm in the online course world, mostly high ticket group coaching programs. I do dabble in some e-commerce and some lead gen. One of my other businesses is a partnership with a solar oriented coaching program, and I manage an agency there of now 10 solar companies, which is crazy. It's pretty new.
I'm Alex. I coach in FATC, primarily e-commerce, but I've done kind of almost everything over the years. And I'm based in sunny California, so I'm one of the warm ones today.
Alex is a smart cookie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of e-com, we also have Jason, who's very powerful in this space.
I'm Jason. I'm from Montreal, where it's freezing cold, but just around an hour ago, I landed in LA, so I'm nice and warm. So that's good. I run a full-service digital marketing agency, and we specialize in e-com in scaling six-figure e-com businesses to seven figures plus.
Hi guys, I'm Cameron. I used to work for Cat actually, then did freelance for a while. Now I work client side. Currently I'm doing acquisition for subscription services for sporting streaming services, which is new, different, quite fun. But yeah, so I work in FATC as a coach, primarily e-com, but I'm also skilled with the coaching and the lead gen stuff. So jack of all trades.
Cool. And last but not least, Marsha.
Hey guys, Marsha here. I'm in the States and I tend to focus on coaches, course creators, lead gen, launches, and sometimes a little bit of e-com.
Hey, let's kick it off with something that has kind of been a big topic this month with Facebook. And I have a firsthand experience with it. And that is Facebook rolled out a policy update recently about, I'd say like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And essentially what it did is it triggered a whole bunch of ad account disapprovals, business manager shutdowns, and then advertising restrictions on profiles. So this has been kind of happening to quite a few people. If it is happening to you, don't take it personally. They're not isolating you out. It is kind of happening across the board. It happened to me. There's some content posted inside of the group about how to kind of approach those kinds of situations to seek help around that. And Marsha, I know you actually have, oh, Karen's not on here, is she? Karen had some stuff to share about this. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Karen's on her way here, actually.
Okay, so we might cover that when she joins us later on. But if this is happening to you, the first thing is to just make sure that you're appealing through your support inbox. So that's facebook.com/support, and just keep appealing until you get an answer from them. Also, another little hack is, this doesn't always work, but sometimes you'll see Facebook will show you, hey, book a call with a marketing representative or something today. Just fucking book a call and try to get in any way that you can. Typically what we're seeing is the appeals are being lifted after about 48 hours. Has anyone on this call experienced, I know Michal, you've been going through purgatory with it for a while. Has anyone else experienced this or with their clients?
Yeah, I had my personal account restricted. I appealed and got it back in 24 hours. And then they took down my business manager, my personal business manager. And then they gave that back after 24 hours. Both saying violation, or it was incorrectly done. So
yeah, that's kind of what they're coming back with, saying it's a mistake, which is a scary thing to do. Now, something that we're starting to roll out now with any media buyer that works with any accounts of ours or client accounts is that every single day now we're getting media buyers to basically look at the disapproved ads inside of an ad account and either appeal those immediately or delete them from the account immediately. If you're using the old ads manager, there's actually a tab called account quality. So if you click on that little like 6-dotted toggle thing, you'll see there's like a thing called account quality. And if you click on that, Facebook lists out all the shit that it's really not happy with you and what policies you're violating and what's happening. Bear in mind, a lot of the times the bot gets it wrong and you're not actually an MLM or you're not actually selling like something dodgy and it's just been triggered or it's too sensitive. But the point being that if you leave rejected ads inside of your ads manager, and this new policy is like if there's over 20% of rejected ads in your ad account, it will pretty much like shut down your BM, if not your personal advertising. So be very, very vigilant with this going forward and use that, like incorporate that in the process that you have with your clients. Just every day, under the delivery tab, check which ones have been rejected or go under the account quality section and just make sure that you're tidying up rejected ads so that you don't put your account, the business manager, and your personal advertising status at risk. Now, another thing, this was kind of a good experience to go through because it was a good reminder that when you get a business manager shut down, pretty much every ad account in that is created by that business manager will get disabled. That's what will happen. And the pixels. Now the ad accounts is not that bad because 5 years ago that used to hurt us. We'd be crying and we'd go into depression for a month that we lost an ad account. But nowadays we're like, start a new one, right? But pixels is a bitch. When you lose a pixel, that's an entirely different thing because maybe you spent $100,000 or 200, maybe you only spent 10K, but there's a lot of data on that pixel, right? And optimization. And so this is a really good reminder that you should have a business manager that houses your main pixels for the funnel. So if you're working with clients, get them to create 2 business managers right off the bat. That's how many they're allowed. Use one business manager, which is not gonna run ads, and it just houses the main pixels for their business. And that way you're protecting that data no matter what happens to any ad account inside of the other business manager. And make sure that, and you can also make sure that that original business manager owns the pages as well, the original assets. Make sure that there's 2 payment methods as always. Anyways, we're not gonna go through that, but this was a really good reminder to just, okay, this shit can happen, and when it happens, there's sometimes not much you can do because you don't own Facebook, and to be honest, unless you're spending $1 million a month in advertising, they really don't give a shit about you as an advertiser. So make sure you set things up properly right from the get-go so that if you face situations like this, you're at least able to move forward with it, and it's not the end of your career as a freelancer and your relationship with whatever clients that you're working with. I hope that all makes sense. So if anyone's going through that and you're really struggling with it in the group, just post in there. We're here to help you work through any disapprovals or rejections or anything that's happened. Okay, cool. I wanted to get that out of the way because that's been a pretty big issue. Now, Jordan, I want to actually kick off with you because something that you posted on an update that you're working on is you're seeing a lot of great results nowadays or this month. I don't know how recently, but running kind of articles top of funnel. But what caught my attention is that you said you're optimizing for landing page views or view content, which to me has always kind of bombed in my face when I did that. So I'd love to hear more about what you're doing here and how that's working out.
Yeah, so this is for a fairly well-established client. And so I think one of the nice things when you're working with a fairly established client is that they're getting sales without needing to pay for ads. So they're getting sales from returning customers anyways. So therefore they have a bit of extra budget to play around. And they're also very focused on scaling. And so we just found that, and we're also restricted to only advertising in Canada at the moment. We found that we were only able to spend about $200 a day when we're only running conversion campaigns.
And then the CPAs would start going up, is that?
And then they would start going crazy, that's right, yeah. So what we've done in the last month or two is we're running like $100 a day we're calling them pre-sell articles. And basically we're able to spend more in our retargeting because of that. And it's all worked out so that our ROAS is still above where we need it to be, but we're just spending more money. So, and I think it makes sense because, we talk about, different objectives as being poor quality traffic. Well, I think it's maybe important to understand that poor quality doesn't necessarily mean that these are people who will never buy, but it's people who aren't impulse buyers. And so like if your company or whoever it is, your client has maybe a bit of extra money to play around with, optimizing for something like landing page views is almost like a branding move where you're not going to see maybe immediate ROAS, but allows you to spend more and make more in the future when you run sales and stuff to your sort of warm audiences.
So how do you set those expectations with a client? Because in my mind, I'm going, okay, so you scale and the CPA goes up, but if you're scaling by optimizing for like a branding type of campaign where you're not immediately going to see that, the CPA goes up.
That's right. Yeah.
The same
That's
thing. Right. So how do you have that discussion with the client so that they're not like, well, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to pay that much, Is it?
Sure.
Like you're obviously having to set expectations there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think it depends on your client, but this particular client, their primary goal is to scale. They are less concerned with ROAS. Basically, as long as I'm getting a 1x return in the account, they're happy. Mm-hmm. And I found that when I just cranked up my conversion ads, I couldn't hit that. Like if I doubled my spend just running purchase conversion ads, it blew up. Like my CPA blew up and I was not getting that 1x ROAS. But when I dumped a percentage of budget into landing page views, and I also am running some video views, but particularly landing page views, I'm able to still stay under that or over that 1x return while I've almost doubled my spend. But yeah, it's something you just have to talk to your client about. Like, if they need to see immediate return on ad spend, then it's probably not the best move, unless you've completely maxed out the amount that sort of you can spend in conversion campaigns. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hoping that makes sense. I think the primary reason it's been helpful for us is because we're advertising in Canada and the market is fairly small. There's just not as much room to scale conversion.
Full, small audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes scaling almost like impossible to big levels. Yeah.
And when you're only running conversion campaigns, you're only reaching a small segment of your audience anyways. So it's further limiting the people you're going to reach. So we've just found that opening up the objectives top of funnel allows us to reach new people who eventually do convert, and it's allowed us to scale.
Yeah, I think like that brings up a good point that it's important to always look at your attribution windows in your reporting columns, and we can share links on videos on how to do that. But because what you might find is that people might take like 28 days to buy, and if you suspect it's longer, then set up offline events, right? Because you might find like, hey, an ad that I ran that month, it didn't get me any sales, but holy shit, 3 months later, people were like buying like fucking crazy, you know? So setting that up is really important, and looking at overall, so you're not just missing sales. So, okay, so it's an e-commerce campaign that you were running, and you're sending it to, you called it like a branded article, or?
Can I share my screen? It's a pre-sell article.
Love that. Yeah.
If anyone's followed Ezra Firestone, this is sort of like his approach to marketing. Let's see if I can find this.
And you're running it as a conversion campaign, though. You're just setting it up for view content as a traffic objective.
I'm running it as a landing page views objective. I've played around, or I'm going to play around with running it as a view content objective. So it'll make sense when I paste the link. Oh, okay. I might have just lost it. Yeah, so that's an example of one of these sort of like pre-sell articles. And basically like when someone lands on this page, there's no custom conversion that's thrown. Right now, I'm just optimizing for landing page view. But I think I will consider optimizing for view content.
Okay, so it is a conversion campaign optimized for landing page view at the
It is not. It's not a conversion campaign. It's a traffic campaign optimized for landing page views.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you're good. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then they see this article, and not many people are taking action right away, you're saying,
That's
but
right.
all in the retargeting. So then you're retargeting the people that are hitting that. But you basically know that if they've hit this page, they have an interest in horse health.
Horse health, yeah. That's
they have
that's
a
exactly
horse.
it. They have a horse. They probably have a horse. Yeah. So that's the goal. I mean, it's just we're trying to target people who are not impulse buyers, and I think that's the goal there.
Nice, good share.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, no worries.
So speaking of scaling and getting a little bit better with targeting and setting up our ad sets, the big thing away, let me ask you guys a question. Have you guys all had CBO mandatorily rolled out in your accounts yet?
No.
No, eh?
No.
27, right?
I have. That's the date I've heard too. Feb 27.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry, I heard last week. Okay. So going forward, do you guys think it's gonna really happen?
No.
I'm like, it'll be interesting to see.
It's not going to happen until it does, basically.
Huh?
It's not going to happen until it finally does. Like I'm refusing to believe it's real until I log in and see it myself.
Or you guys are just in denial about it.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
I kind of think there's enough smoke on this that Feb 27 seems pretty legit. But I mean, we'll see. I hope not. But
that was like when they were like September, and then they're like, oh wait, hold on, we'll give you guys 5 more months. Yeah.
But well, right before Q4 was like the dumbest possible time. Like.
And they're going to phase out ad set budgets, so it's not going to be an immediate hit.
Yeah, well, they couldn't do it immediately because that would shut down so many campaigns, right? And they'd lose so much advertising spend by doing it that way. So it would basically be like you couldn't create a new campaign that way, I suspect, but your existing ad set campaigns would be. So Marcia, what you need to do now is just create a whole bunch of ad set campaigns ready to go in the background.
I do. I got them all running still. It's not that I've not used or tested or played around with CBO, but yes, I still have my ad set campaigns, and I don't know. One of Facebook's big thing is like account simplification. And I actually don't think CBO only is going to give accounts simplification. I think it's going to create more chaos.
Which is not a bad thing for us as marketers, because it means clients have even less of a clue, but it also means for us, it's frustrating too. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know. And then I also just don't believe it is just the best way. I mean, I get like the algorithm, I get the machine. I mean, I understand all of that, but that also takes data, and not everyone advertising on Facebook is acquiring that much data depending on their ad spend. So I don't know. I'm just still in denial until it's like 100%. And I still even think there's still the chance they may be like, oh yeah, and then they'll pull back or it not be 100%. I don't know.
Yeah. So speaking of CBO, Jason, you've been testing something really cool with this feature, right?
Yeah, so something I've been rolling out in almost every single account, and it's been probably the best performing campaign in every single account, is top of funnel, broad CBO, same ad set, duped 5 times with like the best 5 performing ads in each one, and at different manual bids, at different bid caps. So I love bid caps, and rolling that out at different bid caps, it's been incredible. And the goal is to really get at least 3 to 5, at least 3, maybe 4 of them firing and actually doing well. So we start off the first bid caps usually at the average cost of CPA of what you're looking for, and then we increase by $5 to $10 going upwards and trying to find that cadence. But I mean, out of everything that I've tried in the last 3 months of just testing and playing around with, this one has had hands down the best results.
Interesting. I haven't tested this out. So obviously this requires you to establish an average CPA first, right? So you wouldn't go straight into this with a brand new ad account?
Unless you kind of know what you want to be paying roughly. If you could factor in, let's say 30% of your order value CPA and just play, you could start there if you really want to. But yeah, it works best, especially if you're going broad. It works best if you have good data.
So basically what you're doing is you'll launch an ad set, and let's say you want a CPA, or your average CPA is like $30. So that ad set is targeting an audience, and your bid at that ad set is $30. And then you're duplicating that ad set. So it's the same exact targeting. Is that right?
Same exact targeting, same exact ad set. I dupe it. And then I set another bid, and then I just switched. The only thing I switch is the bid cap, is the bid. And I switched that to, let's say, 35 or 40.
Yeah. And then, so you're saying also this is like a broad audience. So you're doing this on really big audiences, or do you do this on interest base?
No, so you want a really big audience, because then the overlap's going to start playing a factor in.
Okay.
So if you have a really big audience, you don't really have to factor in overlap. I mean, broad is really big, or big lookalike audiences. I wouldn't do it on a 1% lookalike audience, because you're going to get overlap in there. But yeah, the bigger the audience, the better.
You know what's really annoying? I don't know if you guys are missing this in some of your, because some of us are still on old ads manager. Who's on the new one? New ads manager? With all the accounts I have, I still have the old ads manager. Yeah,
I thought it was one of the last ones.
Yeah, I still have the old one too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I know Derek still has the old one as well, because he's struggling with like updating videos and stuff because he doesn't have the interface.
Yeah, but the new ads manager is missing a few things that the old one, like delivery insights, seem to be gone, where it would show you kind of like overlap between your ad sets, kind of the competition in your ad set.
It's in the inspect tool.
Inspect. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I was looking for that. Okay, cool. So if you are suspecting that maybe your audience, or you're wondering, is my audience big enough to handle this kind of strategy, head under the inspect tool. And Facebook basically, does anyone know what it's called off the top of your head? It's called not audience saturation. Anyways, it's one of the things, and I'll write it in the afterwards. I'll post it in the comments. but basically it shows you a percentage level, and that percentage is how much your ad set is competing, essentially, is not showing up in the auction as much because it's competing against other ad sets. So that's one way to
so there's the competition aspect, and then there's also first time impression ratio.
Yes, first time impression ratio though is, oh yeah, that's audience saturation, but that could also be like your audiences, but that's not necessarily like between your ads.
No, that could be your ads just hit.
Yeah. So competition. Thanks, Jason.
No
so okay, so then you duplicate it, and how many ad sets would you normally do with this?
5.
Five.
So I do 5. So I dupe it 5 times and just switch, and then I make sure that each of them. So if you're starting, let's say, with a budget of $100 for a campaign, but I'm just using an example, I make sure there's a minimum spend of $20 at least going to each one so that it's a fair test.
Okay, I love that strategy. I'm totally gonna fucking try that out. That's not something I've tried out before, so thank you for that. And you start at $100, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what type of budget you have, but yeah, you can start it.
Perfect. So speaking of like really cool strategies, Alex, you're testing something out at top of funnel right now with dynamic creative, and what are you seeing with that?
Yeah, so I've had my ups and downs with dynamic creative. It's like sometimes it's had stretches where it's been great and other stretches where it's been horrible. And I've just now incorporated it as part of my process. So I will, if I have like a 3% purchase lookalike, or like a CBO of, purchase lookalike and a list lookalike, et cetera, I'll set up 2 campaigns. One will be dynamic creative and one will be static creative. And I'll roll them both out. And, I've had a couple of cases where they both do really well. And even though you technically shouldn't leave both live because they're the same audience, I do, and it's worked fine. But more often than not, one of them will kind of come out much better. And then I just turn the low one off. And I can't say like, I've noticed a pattern like, oh, with this size lookalike or this type audience, it's always dynamic versus non-dynamic. I think it's always worth testing. And what's happened now in most of my accounts is I have like a mix of dynamic creative top of funnel and non-dynamic. And it's all just about which one resonated better with which audience. Dynamic is I think especially great for bigger budgets and or smaller audiences because of the rotation. So you get less burnout, right? It'll last longer without needing to be replaced. But I've had some like static ads work well with small audiences. I've had some dynamic creative do really well with big audiences. So I think that it's like part of my toolkit now. I'm always testing it. So whenever I'm about to launch a new campaign for any client, I'm going to launch it as dynamic and as static, assuming I have enough assets to do a dynamic creative. Not every client gives you, 6-7 images and a bunch of, enough stuff to really do a good dynamic creative. I'm not going to do it just to do it. I'm going to do it if I feel like I have good assets that are worth trying. And I'll launch them both. And so like I said, usually one ends up doing better than the other and that one stays. Sometimes my dynamic creative will have done like, okay, but what I end up finding out is like a couple of combinations did really well. And so that informs my static creative. So it's a way to test a couple things at the same time, right? You're testing your assets because maybe dynamic will, instead of just working as a whole, will actually just show you which images or headlines or whatnot users are resonating with. But also dynamic creative just by itself can work really well. I mean, when it works, it's great because like I said, it has a super long shelf life, right? I have a dynamic creative that I've been running since September. And it's at a pretty high budget. It's like at anywhere from $600 to $800 a day. And you would think that it would have burned out by now, but it's still going strong. It's a CBO of 10% lookalikes. So it's also a big audience. 3 10% lookalikes. It's value purchase, Facebook engager, and Instagram engager. Mm-hmm. And it just plugs along. And if I hadn't tested it, I wouldn't have had the last, 5 months of great performance without having to touch it. So I think it's definitely worth trying. And like I said, I haven't really been able to spot a pattern. So I can't say like, whenever I set up one of these, I can't look at it and say, oh, this one dynamic creative is going to be better here. But you know, usually one of them jumps out, and then I think you get better results by trying both.
Yeah, I have a lot. Who likes to use dynamic creative here? I definitely have a love-hate relationship. And I think my biggest hate about dynamic creative is the social proof aspect, where you're kind of like, there's a pro and then there's a con. And sometimes I find that if you're really not careful with your headlines and your copy, Facebook will mash it up in a way that like really doesn't match the landing page anymore. And so your dynamic is like, what the fuck is this saying compared to the landing page, you know? So you have to be like super aware that Facebook's gonna mash up different headlines with different create copy. And that sometimes that mashup is not really gonna keep the scent. But so many people get so many amazing results with it. So who here loves it? Like who's using it?
So I'm using it bottom of funnel. When I first launched bottom of funnel for webinar, like for retargeting to get people to book a call. So a lot of times I'll put social proof and try a couple different headlines. And it's a really quick way to get like a variety of creative at the bottom of the funnel.
Wait, what do you mean put social proof?
I literally put the copy, in the copy, I put social proof from previous clients.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So it's not, you're not collecting social, right? Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to provide it, and it's also generally it's worked pretty well. And I find I set that as my control first because it takes me, I have longer time to get back to it to make more content at the bottom of the funnel and test against that dynamic creative. And a lot of times I really struggle to beat that control.
Yeah.
I'm using it a lot as well, but only for very short-term, last-minute campaigns. So due to the nature of my job, a lot of the time I have to go through my marketing manager and then over to the rights holder. So the recent one was a pay-per-view event. So we sent them 8 different pieces of copy, and they supplied all the graphic images, which is great. Thank you very much. Like all perfectly done for social. Like they're amazing at what they do. And I'm like, sweet, perfect, done, slam it in. But I send them all the copy and then I've got 3 days to try and get some pay-per-view sales, which is where all the sales come through anyway. So we're just slamming them through with conversion ads and dynamic creative, and it seems to be working really well. And that sort of thing. So just short-term, high budget, really high conversion intent already. And we're just trying to maximize the CTR on that one.
It's good for testing for sure. And typically what we would do if we use dynamic creative, especially, well, both top and middle of funnel, is we'd like figure out what image and headline and copy is working the best. And then we'd go and create ad creatives so that we could build social proof. One of the things with that though, is the caveat is it doesn't always translate into a highly optimized ad, unfortunately. So 70% of the time it works, and then 30% of the time you're like, fuck, that didn't work at all. So it's kind of annoying because you can have really good dynamic creative going, and then you're like, sweet, I'll create this version, which is what Facebook's telling me, and it like bombs, and you're like, what the fuck? Like it's, so it just goes to show like every ad set that you run has like different pools and optimization that it goes after, and you can get even at the ad level, because Tim Bird advocates duplicating your top ads several times within an ad set, right? And you'll see various different results on the same exact ad. But there you go. Milo just commented, you're getting 40-cent leads and 90% open rate. Teach us, Milo, teach us. Like, how the fuck do you get 40-cent leads? Your cost per click is like 10 cents. That's phenomenal. Well done. That is crazy. Speaking of email open rates, Michal, you want to share something about like, don't judge the performance on open rates? Is that what you're, yeah? Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so what's happening, the browsers are, you know how, the way we know there's an open rate happening, like someone opens an email, there has to be a pixel kind of like firing on the email. It's not It's not a code. It's a very small. It's actually a pixel. It's an image, right? If that image is locked by the browser, you will not get the system will not get a feedback that this happened, and you will think, well, this person did not care about my email. They didn't open it, so I'm gonna go and remove them from my list. I'm gonna unsubscribe them. So the open rates, as you know, historically the open rates were like 35% across the board, and then historically it went down and down and down and down, and everyone kept telling us, hey, you know, email is shit, ManyChat is the way to go, bots are the way to go, so don't use emails, nobody opens emails and stuff like that. Well, that's partially true. We are bombarded with emails, but the other kind of like side of the coin is that we just don't have the proper reporting on emails, right? So what you have to do, you have to change your strategy a little bit when it comes to email and infuse links. So you know when people click the link inside of the email, this is how you know those people are interacting with your content in email. So that needs a little bit of a backend strategy change, and then tweaking your mindset around how you build nurturing sequences and how you build email marketing. So not only open rates, not only sending people, blasting people with a long form that we all know are happening, long form emails with like a sales pages almost inside, but just to change that a little bit. So there's like a link. So there's a hook on top, right? And there's a link inside. If you want to learn more, click here. People click, you know, they clicked, the open rate happened, and then you pixel them on the page as well, right? So that's kind of like, and it's happening for this simple reason of the privacy, you know, situation. On Safari, iPhone will block that. A lot of Android phones as well. A lot of desktops as well. All of those guys will block out of the box, kind of like. I recently did help a client with a migration from one system to another system. Like, hey, how come are we seeing? We just cleaned the list in that old system, and now we moved to that new system, only those people that are supposed to open, and like we see 25% open rate, which is amazing, by the way, but it should be 100%. We only need two people who open emails. And so we went through that exercise, and as we started adding links and people started clicking those links, we were like, yeah, that's like 90% of open rate. So
yeah, we're starting to see, I know a lot of the CRMs nowadays, like if you don't, if a subscriber on your list hasn't opened or interacted with a certain amount of emails you've sent out, it basically like unsubscribes them automatically. So HubSpot does that. And it's a bitch of a thing, because even if they buy a product and they become a customer, they don't even receive customer emails like with login information or details that is like really important, because HubSpot, the entire CRM, is like, nah, they're not interested, they've been removed. So yeah, it's like really important, I think, as Facebook marketers, that we're looking at like the whole funnel that we're sending traffic into, and recognizing that email still plays a really big part, especially for everything, lead gen, e-commerce, coaches, all of those. Email is such a key part of any funnel. And in many ways, if you're just being onboarded as the media buyer, you're kind of like stopped at the retargeting, right? That's as far as you kind of go with things. And it's really important to have a discussion with your clients, or bring that discussion to the table for your clients and go like, hey, are you looking after your emails? So one of the things that we've embarrassingly only recently started to do, this is something we should have done ages ago, is we're split testing now, so that we can actually really fully understand our audience and what they respond to and what they're not. So we start with, like, for example, for 3 weeks in a row, we'll split test, okay, an email with a template and an email without a template. Which one leads to highest click-through rates? Okay, this is working best for us. Next, let's test out emojis in the headlines versus non-emojis. Which ones does our audience prefer? What leads to a higher open rate? And slowly and surely you start to really figure out and learn, and every audience is different. So for a marketer to be like, yeah, use emojis in your headline, it's like, Sure, but that's probably not going to fucking work for a doctor, you know, or like a different type of audience. So it's always important to like split test everything you're doing and telling your clients to implement that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just to what Mika is saying and you, like lately in the last 10 days, like I've seen a huge improvement in my funnel that I'm doing through LinkedIn. And the biggest improvement that I've seen is because actually I'm doing InMail. I'm not doing direct connections. And InMail actually sends the message and then it sends them a confirmation email. And it's actually the email that people are replying back to me. So whoever thinks that email is going down, it's like, no, there's networks like business networks, not directly maybe B2C consumers, but actually B2B. Email is still number one in getting in that lead generation space.
Oh, email is the top marketing channel, which is shocking to me because I never open emails. And I remember in the 1990s, they were like, email is dead, social media is coming out, and this is kind of, you know, when bots came out, everyone were like, oh, bots is taking over and ads are gonna, like, social, all these other channels are dead. And it's like, the traditional marketing channels are pretty solid in terms of how they work. And I think one of the things that we're excited to test out a little bit more and bring that into the training to you guys is because another powerful channel is SMS. And that one is like cowboys land, because you look at bots, right, which is controlled by Facebook basically. And the minute Facebook decides it doesn't like something, it goes, oh, 24-hour rule. And then it goes, no, we changed our mind about the 24-hour rule. And there's all these like policies and restrictions. And if you tiptoe the wrong way, you get shut down. But SMS is like no man's land, which is kind of exciting. Like until someone messages stop, you can basically like do whatever the fuck you want with your messages there, right? So it's
there's FEC that you guys, you know, you have to be careful about the US for
sure.
sure.
No, this is true. Like you still need to make sure they're opting in the right way, and correct. But compared to like a channel that is run by a platform like Facebook, it almost has the same, if not more freedom than email marketing in a way, right? So it's quite exciting. Cool. All right. So before we wrap it up and talking about new marketing channels, Amy, you want to talk about intelligent tracking prevention. What is this? Yeah, I don't even know what this is.
Oh, yeah, we actually just heard. So Michal was talking about this and how it's impacting moving from email to tracking to, you know, tracking people with their links. So not a lot of people are talking about this tremendously, but ITP is Apple's war on tracking. Now, they don't see it as a war. They see it as championing the little guy and moving us forward with privacy.
Intelligent tracking prevention. So this is the same thing as what Michal was talking with the emails. Okay, cool.
Yep. So, so what this means is that if anyone is using a Safari browser or Firefox, because they're on the bandwagon too. Now, Chrome is not. Chrome is Google. So different kind of issues. But what we're seeing is Apple is, if you look on the WebKit blog, which is the developer blog, now we're getting super geek. And I'm not a coder, so, you know, I know some JavaScript. So what's happening is Facebook, it loves targeting. Apple wants to get rid of all of it and protect people. And that's how they're seeing this. So what happens is link decorations, like we use UTMs in all of our ads, right? Well, that's a link decoration. And so Facebook is combating the ITP, the tracking prevention, that wall, by adding decorations to the URLs, whether it's from ads or, you know, whatever you click through from Facebook. Well, that sometimes drops UTMs. And so what's happening is cold audiences, for example, lookalikes, they're tapering off. The effect of all of ITP is that the cookies, pixels are a form of cookie. It's different, but so the pixels are dying, and it depends on the type of cookie, 1 day, 7 day, 30 day. So to look for this, go into your ad account, go to breakdowns, put your ads manager on lifetime, and at the campaign view, go into breakdowns, and you can look at impression devices, and you can see all the different devices that are using Apple, technology. And as Michal also said, some of the Android devices are also using Safari. It's the top mobile browser out there. So when you see that, it can impact audiences. It's not the first thing to check. It's not the first thing that breaks. And so what we're seeing in our accounts right now is that there are other problems. Like if you made a mistake in your funnel and you haven't built properly, that's going to cause more problems than ITP at this point. But cookies will drop off, and again, it's 1 day, 7 day, 30 day. So you can actually inspect the elements on your pages to see what kind of cookies are there. So it's kind of high tech, but what's still working is email, schema, Facebook pages and ads, offline conversion data. And this is one of the things that Facebook is doing to, push this out, is to say, hey, everybody now gets 720 days of tracking on offline conversions. That's new. That's kind of cool. So, use that where you can to bolster up some of your audiences and retargeting.
Yeah. So this is potentially why there have been such issues with reporting as well, right? Happening.
Super. Yeah. This messes up all kinds of things. So this will interfere with attribution, but what we've seen over and over again, especially recently, is the rising tide raises all the ships, right? So you see increases happening at Facebook, but the attributions don't make sense on Google. Well, half your ETMs just dropped off. So we're not getting, good reporting that way. And then, so Facebook analytics, staying native inside the tracking is going to be helpful. So
you're still reporting from Facebook analytics, or are you reporting from Google now?
We're checking tracking wherever we can. Primarily it's in the ads manager itself where we're getting the data.
Yeah. I know that they recently had a lot of bugs as well with the reporting. So I think it's always good to cross-reference everything, especially if you're on performance-based with clients, because you could be getting a lot more leads or sales than what you're being told is happening. It's a bitch of a thing, because then it makes it hard to optimize your ads or your ad set. But as Amy said, set up offline event tracking, because then you can just grab a customer list from the client or a leads list, upload that into Facebook, and it has a pretty high match rate. It's still not 100%, but it'll show you a little bit more insight into where people are coming from, which ads, so that you're not turning off the stuff that's actually working for you, It's something that's so common in our industry. We get obsessed with cheap leads or cheap clicks, Everyone wants cheap clicks, cheap leads. And then we sometimes lose sight of the fact that, hold on, sometimes the $5 clicks are the ones that actually turn into customers. And we go and cut those off from our ad sets. We're like, oh, those clicks are too expensive. And that's your high quality, high intent person. So offline event tracking, looking at the whole funnel as a whole, and making sure that you're understanding the attribution window of the purchase cycle of the customers that you're dealing with is so important. And then setting those expectations with clients as well. Thank you for that, Amy, and everyone else that shared on this call today. So we are going to call this one a wrap. So just as a really quick recap for you all, Facebook is on a crusade right now with a policy update that has triggered lots of BM shutdowns. Did you end up getting Facebook to bump up your case, Michal, after everyone voted for it?
No, I got a very sweet middle finger from them. Yeah.
The middle finger. So just be aware that that is happening. Make sure you appeal if you're struggling with that. Share in the group and we will try to help you out. Really cool strategies being shared by Mr. Jordan about optimizing for landing page views and sending to an intent article to be able to scale more rapidly. Also really love the bidding strategy. So basically using different bidding caps in different ad sets and getting really good results from that. And then we also discussed dynamic creative and how to kind of use that amongst some other strategies like email and all of that. So I'll be sharing a recap with you all and any links that are relevant to you. Thank you everyone for joining us on this What's Working. We'll see you guys on this call again next month. Thanks everyone for joining. Any questions, pop them in the comments and we're here to help you guys. See you guys later. Bye.